The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was the largest room Ambassador Jinho had ever seen. It floated in space, a massive station orbiting a dead world called Desser Prime. Thousands of seats rose in circles around a central platform, and in those seats sat the representatives of 100 different species. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some had no faces at all. They had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, and they looked down at the small human standing in the center, like he was an insect asking to sit at their table. Jinho was 53 years old. His black hair had started to turn gray at the sides, and his hands were calm as he held his documents. Behind him stood Captain Yuna, a woman of 40, with short hair and sharp eyes. She wore her military uniform and said nothing. She was there to watch, not to speak. Jinho had practiced this speech for months. He knew every word. He knew it would not be enough, but he had to try. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," he began, his voice clear and steady. "I come before you today on behalf of Earth and her colonies. For 40 years, humanity has served as a provisional member of this great assembly. We have followed your laws. We have paid your tributes. We have sent our sons and daughters to fight in wars that were not our own." He paused and looked around the chamber. Most of the aliens were not even paying attention. Some were talking to each other. Some were looking at their devices. High Speaker Maul, the ancient insectoid who led the council, was cleaning his mandibles with a small cloth. Jinho continued. "Anyway, our engineers rebuilt the Korath shipyards. After the Burning War, our doctors developed the cure for the Veloci plague that killed millions. Our soldiers held the line at the rim for 6 years while your fleets regrouped." He let those words hang in the air. "We have given everything we have to this council. We have proven ourselves in peace and in war. Today, I formally request that humanity be granted full membership and a permanent seat among you." He placed his documents on the central podium and stepped back. The chamber fell quiet for a moment. Then Counselor Veth laughed. Veth was a Korath, tall reptilian creature with green scales and yellow eyes. He was old, even by Korath standards, and he had hated humans since the first day they entered council space. He leaned forward in his seat, his long tongue flicking out between his teeth. "Full membership?" Veth said, still laughing. "For humans. These soft little creatures who live for barely a century, who cannot even breathe in half the atmospheres we find comfortable." Other counselors began to laugh as well. The sound echoed through the chamber, bouncing off the high walls. Jinho did not move. His face remained calm. High Speaker Maul raised one of his forearms, and the laughter slowly died down. He looked at Jinho with compound eyes that showed no emotion. "Ambassador Maul said, his voice clicking and buzzing through the translator, "Your species has served adequately. We do not deny this. But adequate service does not make you our equals." He gestured around the chamber with his long arm. "The species you see here have existed for millions of years. We have built empires. We have conquered stars. We have seen civilizations rise and fall like waves on a shore." He leaned forward, and something like amusement crossed his alien face. "Humanity's young. Humanity is fragile. Humanity is too emotional, too unpredictable. You fight among yourselves. You destroy your own worlds. You feel things too deeply." He clicked his mandibles again. "Perhaps in another 1,000 years you may ask again. For now, your petition is denied." The chamber erupted in noise. Some aliens cheered. Others simply returned to their conversations, as if the whole matter was already forgotten. A human asking for equality. How amusing. How silly Captain Yuna felt her hands curl into fists at her sides. She wanted to step forward. She wanted to tell them about the human soldiers who had died defending Korath colonies. She wanted to tell them about the human scientists who had worked day and night to save Veloci children from the plague. She wanted to scream at them, but Ambassador Jinho turned slightly and caught her eye. His look said everything. Not now, not here, not like this. Jinho faced the council one more time. He did not look angry. He did not look sad. His face was perfectly calm, like still water. "I understand," he said quietly. He gathered his documents from the podium. He straightened his jacket. He looked at High Speaker Maul, then at Counselor Veth, then at the hundreds of other faces staring down at him. "Then we will take our leave," he said. 5 simple words, spoken softly. No anger, no threat. Just a statement of fact. Counselor Veth laughed again. "Take your leave. And go where? Human? You need our trade routes. You need our technology. You need our protection. You will come crawling back within a year, begging us to." Counselor Jinho interrupted gently. "I said we will take our leave. I did not say we will return." For a moment, Veth stopped laughing. Something flickered in his yellow eyes. But then Maul waved his arm dismissively. "Let them go," the High Speaker said. "Let them have their tantrum. They will learn soon enough that the galaxy does not revolve around their feelings." The council laughed again. Some stamped their feet. Others made sounds of amusement in languages that had no human words. The noise filled the chamber like thunder. Ambassador Jinho bowed precisely the same bow he had given when he entered. Then he turned and walked toward the exit. Captain Yuna fell into step behind him. Their footsteps echoed on the stone floor. No one tried to stop them. Why would they? Humans were nothing. Humans were amusing. Humans would come back when they realized how small they truly were. The great doors of the chamber closed behind them with a heavy boom in the corridor outside. Yuna finally spoke. Her voice was tight with controlled anger. "They laughed at us. They laughed at everything we've done, every life we've given." Jinho kept walking. His pace was steady, unhurried. "Yes," he said simply. "They did. What do we do now?" Jinho stopped. He turned to face her, and for the first time, Yuna saw something in his eyes. It was not anger. It was not sadness. It was something much colder. Something patient. Something that had been waiting for this moment. "Now," Ambassador Jinho said quietly, "we go home. And we stop asking." He turned and continued walking toward the human shuttle bay. Behind them, the laughter of the council still echoed through the walls. They had no idea what they had just done. They had no idea what silence meant when it came from humanity. They would learn. In time, they would all learn. But by then, it would be far too late. 3 months passed, and the galaxy continued to spin as it always had. Ships flew between stars. Trade flowed through ancient routes. The council met and argued and made their decisions, and no one thought about the humans anymore. They had made their little protest. They had walked out of the chamber with their wounded pride. Soon they would return, hat in hand, asking for forgiveness. That was what everyone expected. On the Korath shipyards orbiting their home world, Chief Engineer Voss received a message that confused him. The fusion reactors in Section 7 had been making strange noises for weeks, and he needed the human specialists to look at them. Humans had designed those reactors. Only humans truly understood how they worked. He sent a request to Earth. The response came back within a day. Polite and professional. "We regret to inform you that our fusion specialists are currently allocated to internal projects. We are unable to assist at this time. We wish you the best in resolving your technical difficulties." Boss read the message 3 times. Then he sent another request offering more money. The response was the same. Polite, professional. No. He tried contacting individual human engineers he had worked with. Some did not respond at all. Others sent short messages saying they had returned to Earth and were no longer available for outside work. Within 2 weeks, Section 7 went dark. The reactors failed, and no one knew how to fix them. On the other side of the galaxy, Velocity medical stations faced a different problem. The human-developed vaccines that had saved their species from the plague were running low. They needed more. They sent their orders to Earth, as they had done for years. The response was almost identical to what Voss had received. "We regret to inform you that our pharmaceutical production is currently focused on internal needs. We are unable to fulfill external orders at this time. We wish you good health." The Veloci ambassador tried to contact the human embassy on their world. He found it closed. The staff had left weeks ago. The building was empty. Trade Minister Syogen sat in his office on Earth, watching the reports come in from across human space. Every human freighter was being recalled. Every shipping contract was being allowed to expire. Human goods were quietly vanishing from galactic markets, placed by nothing. He was a round-faced man with kind eyes, but there was no kindness in what he was doing. There was only calculation. How long until they notice? His assistant asked. Some already have, Syogen replied, but they don't understand yet. They think it's temporary. They think we're having supply problems or internal difficulties.
Oh.
He smiled slightly. Let them think that. The longer they believe it's an accident, the deeper we can go. Admiral Tai-ho stood on the bridge of the carrier Sunrise and watched his fleet move through space. 57 warships, all of them pulling back from patrol routes they had defended for 30 years. The rim would be unprotected now. Pirates would come. Raiders would strike. The council would have to deal with it themselves. Sir, his first officer said, we're receiving messages from the Korath border stations. They want to know why we're leaving. Tell them our patrol contract is ended, Tai-ho said calmly. Tell them we wish them well. They're going to be attacked within the month, sir. Tai-ho nodded. His face showed nothing. Yes, they are. He thought about the human soldiers who had died defending those borders. Young men and women who had given their lives for aliens who called them insects. Aliens who laughed at their ambassadors and denied them basic respect. Bring them home, he said quietly. Bring all of them home. On Earth, Dr. Hannah worked in a laboratory buried deep beneath the surface of the moon. The facility was called Prometheus, and officially, it did not exist. Unofficially, it was the most important place in human space. She was a small woman, with glasses and messy hair, and she had not slept in 2 days. On the screens around her, data streamed in endless columns, faster than light research, weapons development, medical advances, energy systems. For decades, humanity had shared their best work with the Council. They had given freely, hoping to earn respect. Now they kept everything for themselves, and the pace of progress was accelerating beyond anything she had imagined. The new drive prototype is ready for testing, her assistant reported. If it works, it will be 3 times faster than anything the Council has. Hannah nodded. Test it, and start work on the next generation immediately. The next generation. We haven't even confirmed this one works yet. It will work, Hannah said. Her voice was quiet but certain. And when it does, I want the next one ready. And the one after that. We have a lot of time to make up. Captain Yuna stood on her balcony in Seoul, looking up at the night sky. The stars looked the same as they always had, but everything was different now. She had spent 20 years serving alongside aliens who saw her as lesser. She had lost friends in battles that the Council never thanked them for. She had watched Jin-ho be humiliated in that grand chamber, surrounded by laughter. Her communicator buzzed. A message from Admiral Tai-ho. Report to Luna Base tomorrow. New assignment. High priority. She read it twice, then looked back at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Council was starting to notice. Somewhere out there, aliens were beginning to ask questions. Where are the humans? Why are they leaving? Why won't they answer our calls? They didn't understand yet. They still thought this was a tantrum, a temporary fit of anger that would pass. They didn't realize that humanity never did anything without a plan. They didn't know that the silence was not weakness. It was preparation. 6 months after, Jin-ho walked out of the council chamber. The High Speaker received a report that made him pause for the first time. Human embassies were closing across the galaxy. Human workers were returning to Earth by the millions. Human ships were vanishing from trade routes. Human technology was becoming impossible to find. Should we be concerned? One of his advisors asked. Mal considered the question. For a moment, something like doubt flickered in his ancient mind. But then, he remembered the humans. Small, soft, emotional. They needed the Council far more than the Council needed them. he said finally. Let them sulk. They will return when their pride fades and their stomachs grow empty. They always do. He returned to his other business, already forgetting about the report. He did not see what Ginyo saw. He did not understand what Yuna understood. He could not imagine what Hannah was building or what Taiho was preparing. The silence was just beginning, and it would grow louder than any scream in her laboratory on the moon. Dr. Hannah watched the prototype drive activate for the first time. It worked perfectly, 3 times faster than anything in council space. She allowed herself a small smile. Begin the next phase, she said. The stars were waiting, and humanity had work to do. 18 months had passed since the humans walked away, and the galaxy was falling apart. It happened slowly at first, like cracks spreading through ice. Small problems became big problems. Big problems became disasters. And everywhere the council looked, they found the same terrible truth waiting for them. They had needed the humans far more than they ever knew. On the Korath homeworld, the power grid failed for the 3rd time in a month. The fusion reactors that humans had designed were breaking down one by one, and no Korath engineer could figure out how to repair them. They had the blueprints, they had the manuals, but human technology was strange. It worked in ways that seemed almost magical, full of tiny details and careful adjustments that only human hands truly understood. Counselor Veth stood in the darkness of his chambers, lit only by emergency lights, and felt something he had not felt in centuries. Fear. 3 stations had gone completely dark. Millions of Korath were without power. Factories had stopped. Food storage was failing, and winter was coming to the northern continent.
You ordered his staff. Offer them whatever they want.
Money, territory, anything his staff tried. They sent messages to Earth. They sent messages to human colonies. They even sent ships to human space. Carrying diplomats and gifts, the ships were turned away at the border, politely, professionally. The diplomats were given food and water for their journey home, then sent back the way they came. No humans would come to help the Korath. It's not anymore. On Veloci Prime, the plague had returned. The same sickness that had nearly destroyed their species 30 years ago, the one that human doctors had cured, was spreading through their cities again. This time it was different. This time it had changed, mutated into something new. The Veloci scientists worked day and night trying to adapt the human vaccines. They failed. Human medicine was built on human biology, human thinking, human creativity. It could not simply be copied. It had to be understood, and they did not understand. Millions fell sick. Thousands died. The Veloci begged the Council for help, but the Council had no help to give. The only species that could save them had stopped answering calls. Along the rim, pirates struck colony after colony. Without human patrol ships, the border was wide open. Raiders came in waves, taking what they wanted, burning what they didn't. The Council fleet was spread too thin to respond. They'd never realized how much of the patrol work humans had done quietly, without recognition, without thanks. General Doyan received reports of the attacks on his desk at Earth Defense Command. He read each one carefully, then filed them away. His face showed no expression. Should we help them? Zaid asked. No, Doyan said simply. They made their choice. Now they live with it. Some of them are innocent. Civilians. Children. Doyan was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked up at his aide with tired eyes. Do you know how many human children died in the Rim Wars? How many human civilians were lost because the Council sent us to fight instead of their own fleets? He shook his head slowly. We gave them everything. They gave us laughter. I will not spend one more human life for creatures who think we are insects. The aide had no response to that. High Speaker Maul called an emergency session of the Council. For the first time in living memory, the Great Chamber was not full of arrogance and noise. It was quiet, afraid. The humans must be brought back, Maul announced. We will send a delegation to Earth. We will offer them full membership. We will give them what they asked for. Counselor Veth rose from his seat. His scales had lost their shine. His eyes were dull with exhaustion. Will that be enough? He asked. After what we did? After what we said? Maul had no answer. The delegation was led by Counselor Brell, a moderate Korath, who had always argued for better treatment of younger species. He was old but not arrogant, wise but not cruel. If anyone could convince the humans to return, it was him. He traveled for 2 weeks to reach Earth. When he arrived, he was met at the border by a single human ship. A young woman appeared on his view screen. She had a soft face and gentle eyes, but something about her made Brell uneasy. "I am Envoy Minji," she said. "I will escort you to Earth. Please follow my ship, and do not deviate from the approved route." Brell agreed. What choice did he have? Earth was beautiful. Brell had never visited before, and he was surprised by how green it was, how alive. Human cities spread across the continents, but they were surrounded by forests and fields and oceans of deep blue. It was nothing like the industrial worlds of the Korath. Mingi met him in a small room with simple furniture. She served him tea and small cakes, smiling politely the entire time. "Counselor Brell," she said, "it is an honor to meet you. How can I help you today?" Brell laid out his offers. Full membership, a permanent seat, reparations for past insults, trade agreements, military alliances, everything the humans had asked for and more. Minji listened to each offer. She nodded at appropriate moments. She asked thoughtful questions. And when Brell finished, she set down her tea and smiled again. "Thank you for coming all this way," she said. "We are honored by your offers. However, we must respectfully decline." Brell stared at her. "Decline? All of it?" "Yes, but this is everything you wanted. This is what Ambassador Jinho asked for." Minji's smile did not change, but something shifted in her eyes. Something cold. "Ambassador Jinho asked for respect," she said quietly. "He asked to be treated as an equal." Gave him laughter. She paused. "We do not want your seat anymore, Counselor. We do not want your membership. We do not want your apologies." "Then what do you want?" Minji was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke, and her voice was like ice. "We want you to understand. We came to you with open hands and open hearts. We gave you our best and asked only for dignity. You told us we were too young, too soft, too emotional." She stood slowly. "You come to us with your failing reactors and your dying people and your burning colonies, and you offer us everything we once desired." She walked to the window and looked out at the Earth below. "It is too late, Counselor. We do not need you anymore. We do not hate you. We simply do not care." Brell felt the words hit him like physical blows. He had expected anger. He had prepared for demands. He had not prepared for this. It's this calm, quiet dismissal. This complete indifference. "What should I tell the council?" he asked finally. Minji turned back to him. Her smile returned, soft and polite, and utterly without warmth. "Tell them the truth. Tell them humanity is not coming back. Tell them we wish them well." She bowed slightly and tell them to prepare. "The galaxy is changing, Counselor. We are changing it. You can join us as equals when they are ready, but we will not wait for them. Not anymore." Brell returned to the council and delivered his report. The chamber was silent when he finished. No one laughed. No one spoke. High Speaker Maul sat in his great chair, suddenly looking very old. "What do we do now?" someone asked. No one had an answer. Far away on a hidden base beyond the reach of council sensors, Dr. Hannah watched the latest test results come in. The new drive was working perfectly. The new weapons were ready. The new medical technology could cure diseases that had no names. Humanity was not just catching up to the council. They were leaving them behind. She looked out at the stars and smiled. The silence was almost over. Soon the galaxy would see what humanity could really do. 3 years had passed since the humans walked away, and the galaxy had learned a terrible lesson. The lesson was simple. They had never understood what humanity really was. The council was in chaos. Systems that had worked for thousands of years were failing. Species that had looked down on humans were now begging for scraps of the technology they had once received for free. Wars had broken out along the rim. Plagues swept through worlds that had no vaccines. Power stations went dark on planets that had forgotten how to generate their own electricity, and Earth just watched, silent, patient, growing stronger every day. First Minister? Ginho stood at the window of his office in Geneva, looking out at the mountains. He was 60 years old now, and his hair had gone completely white. The years had been kind to him in some ways, and cruel in others. He had built something great, but he had also watched old friends die and old enemies suffer. It was not always easy to know if he had done the right thing. A soft knock came at his door. Veloci delegation has arrived, his assistant said. Ginho nodded slowly. Send them in. They came in a group of 5, their fur thin and patchy from stress and sickness. They were smaller than he remembered, their eyes duller. The plague had taken much from them. Their pride had taken the rest. Their leader bowed so low his nose nearly touched the floor. First Minister, he said, his voice shaking. We beg you. Our people are dying. Millions are sick. We have nothing left to offer but our gratitude. Please, help us. Ginho was quiet for a long moment. He thought about all the times humans had helped the Veloci, all the doctors they had sent, all the vaccines they had developed, all the lives they had saved. He thought about the laughter in the council chamber. I am sorry for your suffering, he said finally. His voice was gentle but firm. Truly sorry. Your people did not deserve this. Hope flickered in the Veloci leader's eyes. Then you will help us. I will offer you a choice, Ginho said. We have developed new treatments, better than anything we had before. We can cure your plague completely within 6 months. Yes. Yes, anything. Ginho held up his hand. In exchange, your species will leave the council. You will become an independent member of the Human Alliance. You will follow our laws, trade fairly with our merchants, and never again look down on those younger than yourselves.
The Veloci leader's face went pale.
Leave the council. But we have been members for 50,000 years. And in 50,000 years, the council never cured your plague. We did. Jinho's eyes were calm but unyielding. This is not punishment. This is simply truth. The council cannot help you. We can choose. The delegation left to discuss among themselves. 3 days later, they agreed to every term. The Veloci were the first to leave the council. They were not the last. Admiral Taiho commanded the most powerful fleet in the galaxy now. 72 warships, each one equipped with technology the council could not match. They patrolled human space in perfect formation, silent and watchful. The Korath had tried to force their way through 3 times. 3 times they had been stopped. Not destroyed. Not even damaged. Just stopped. Taiho stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dawn, and watched the latest Korath battle group approach on his sensors. 5 heavy cruisers. 20 support ships. Enough firepower to destroy a small planet. They're demanding we let them pass, his communications officer reported. They say they need access to the medical stations beyond our border. Tell them the border is closed, Taiho said calmly. Suggest they find another route.
Powering weapons, sir.
Their Taiho nodded. He had expected this. Launch the drones. 100 small craft emerged from the Dawn's bays. They moved faster than anything the Korath had ever seen, surrounding the enemy fleet in seconds. They did not fire. They did not need to. Their message was clear enough. The Korath commander appeared on the view screen. He was young and angry, his scales bright with fury. You cannot do this. We are members of the council. You are nothing. You are insects. Taiho looked at him for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice quiet and cold. We are the insects who built your reactors. We are the insects who cured your allies. We are the insects who defended your borders while you laughed at us. He leaned forward slightly. Now we are the insects with 100 drones pointing at your ships. Please turn around. We do not wish conflict. The Korath commander stared at him. His scales flickered through several colors, emotions too complex for humans to read. Then, slowly, his weapons powered down. This is not over, he said. No, Taiho agreed. It is not. But today, you will turn around. Tomorrow is another matter. The Korath fleet turned and retreated. No shots were fired. No lives were lost. That was how humanity fought now. Not with anger. Not with violence. Just with quiet, overwhelming strength, Captain Yuna commanded the border station closest to Council space. Every day, ships approached her station begging for help, for trade, for anything at all. Every day, she turned them away. It was harder than she had expected. She had spent her life protecting others, fighting for others, dying for others. Now she stood behind a wall and watched them suffer. But she remembered the laughter. She remembered Jinho's face as they mocked him. She remembered every human soldier who had died for aliens who thought they were worthless. Another ship approaching, her officer reported. Civilian transport. They say they have sick children aboard. Yuna closed her eyes. This was the hardest part. The children had done nothing wrong. They were innocent. But if she opened the door for one, she would have to open it for all. And humanity was not ready for that. Not yet. Send them medical supplies, she said finally. Food and water for a week, then direct them to the nearest council station. Sir, the nearest council station is 6 days away. Then they had better hurry. The transport received its supplies and turned away. Yuna watched it go, a small point of light vanishing into the darkness. Dr. Hannah unveiled the fruits of the Prometheus project in a broadcast that reached every corner of human space. She stood in front of massive holographic displays, her small frame dwarfed by the images of ships and stations and technologies that would have seemed like magic 3 years ago. This is what we have built, she said simply. New drives that can cross the galaxy in weeks instead of months. New energy systems that produce no waste and never fail. New medicines that can cure almost any disease. New weapons that can defend our worlds against any threat. Oh, she paused and looked directly into the camera. The council thought we were too young, too soft, too emotional. They were right about one thing. We are emotional. We feel things deeply. But they did not understand what that means. She smiled, and there was something fierce in it. It means when we decide to do something, we do it with everything we have. It means we do not give up. It means we do not forget. And it means when you hurt us, we do not scream and fight. We go quiet, go home, and we build. The broadcast ended. Across human space, people cheered. They had spent 3 years watching and waiting and wondering. Now they knew the truth. Humanity had not retreated. Humanity had evolved. High Speaker Maul watched the broadcast in his private chambers. His compound eyes reflected the images of human technology, each one more advanced than anything the council possessed. He was very old. He had ruled the council for 200 years. He had seen species rise and fall. He had thought he understood power. He had been wrong. Call the full council, he said to his aide. We need to discuss our options. What options do we have, High Speaker? Maul was silent for a long time. The truth was, he did not know. He had laughed at the humans because he thought they were weak. He had dismissed them because he thought they needed the council more than the council needed them. Now he understood. The humans had never needed anyone. They had just been polite enough to pretend they did. And now the pretending was over. 5 years had passed since Ambassador Ginho walked out of the council chamber. 5 years since the laughter. 5 years since humanity stopped asking for permission to exist. The galaxy had changed completely. The human alliance now controlled more territory than any single council species. Their ships were the fastest. Their technology was the most advanced. Their medicine had saved billions of lives, but only on their own terms. Species that joined them flourished. Species that stayed with the council struggled to survive. And now, finally, the council had asked for a summit. First Minister Ginho agreed, not because he needed anything from them, not because he wanted revenge. He agreed because he remembered what it felt like to stand in that chamber, full of hope, and be laughed at. He wanted them to understand what they had done. He wanted them to feel it. The human delegation arrived at Thisser Prime in a single ship. It was small compared to the massive council vessels that surrounded the station. But everyone who saw it knew the truth. That one ship carried enough power to destroy the entire fleet. Captain Yuna led the honor guard. She walked in front of First Minister Jinho, her uniform crisp, her face calm. Behind them came Admiral Taiho, Dr. Hannah Envoy, Minji, and General Doyon, the best of humanity. Walking together into the chamber where they had once been humiliated, the doors opened. Jinho stepped inside. The grand chamber looked the same as it had 5 years ago. The same high ceilings, the same thousands of seats rising in circles, the same ancient species looking down from their positions of power, but everything was different now. The seats were not all full. Many species had left the council or simply collapsed. The ones who remained looked tired and afraid. There was no arrogance in their eyes anymore. No contempt, only desperation. High Speaker Maul rose from his great chair. He was ancient now, older than Jinho had ever seen him. His movements were slow, his voice weak. First Minister Jinho Maul said, "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I welcome you back to this chamber. We thank you for agreeing to meet with us." Jinho bowed politely. The same bow he had given 5 years ago? Exactly the same. "High Speaker, it is good to see you again." Maul gestured to the assembled council. "We have discussed the situation at length. We recognize that mistakes were made. We recognize that humanity was treated unfairly." Paused, as if the words were difficult to say. "We are prepared to offer you everything you once asked for, and more." A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing the council's offer. Full membership. The highest seat on the council. Veto power over all major decisions. Territorial expansion. Unlimited trade rights. Reparations in quantities that would have seemed impossible 5 years ago. "All of this is yours," Maul said. "If you will return to us. If you will help us rebuild what has been lost." The chamber fell silent. Every eye was on Jinho. Every breath was held. Jinho looked at the display for a long moment. Then he looked at Maul. Then he looked around the chamber, at each face in turn. The Korath, who had mocked him. The Veloci, who had dismissed him. The hundreds of other species who had laughed at the idea of humans being their equals. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but clear. It carried to every corner of the chamber. 5 years ago, I stood in this exact spot. I told you what humanity had done for the Council. I reminded you of our sacrifices, our contributions, our loyalty. I asked for nothing but respect. Nothing but a seat at your table. He paused. You laughed. All of you. You told me we were too young, too soft, too emotional. You told me we would come crawling back when we realized how small we were. He stepped forward and something changed in his presence. He was not angry. He was not bitter. He was something far more frightening. He was completely at peace. I want you to understand something, he said. We did not leave because we were hurt. We did not build our alliance because we wanted revenge. We left because we finally understood the truth. He looked directly at Maul. You were never going to respect us. Not because we were unworthy, but because respect was not something you understood. You only understood power, fear, domination. He shook his head slowly. We tried for 40 years to earn your friendship. We gave everything we had. And you laughed, so we stopped trying. The words hung in the air like a blade. We went home. We closed our doors, and we built something better. Not to punish you, not to prove anything to you. We built it for ourselves. Because we deserved it, because our children deserved it. Because we were tired of begging for scraps from creatures who thought we were insects. He turned to look at the holographic display again. You offer us everything now? The highest seat. Veto power. Reparations. He smiled slightly, and there was no warmth in it. Do you know what I feel when I look at this offer? Maul waited, his compound eyes fixed on Jinho. Nothing, Jinho said. I feel nothing. Because we do not need any of it. We do not need your seat. We do not need your power. We do not need your apology. He turned back to face the council. If you want our friendship, you may earn it. In time, through actions, not words. Help the species you have abandoned. Rebuild the worlds you have let burn. Learn to treat others as equals, not as servants. He paused. When you have done that, come to us again. We will be waiting. But today, we will not take your offer. Today, we will take our leave. just as we did 5 years ago. He bowed precisely, exactly as he had before. The same angle, the same duration, the same dignity. Then he turned and walked toward the exit. The human delegation fell into step behind him. Captain Yuna, Admiral Taiho, Dr. Hannah, Envoy, Minji, General Doyan. They walked in perfect silence, their footsteps echoing on the stone floor. No one tried to stop them. No one spoke. No one laughed. Captain Yuna was the last to leave. She paused at the door and looked back at the assembled council. For a moment, she remembered all the years she had spent fighting for them, all the friends she had lost, all the sacrifices that had been dismissed as nothing. Then she smiled. It was a small smile, almost gentle, almost kind, and then the door closed behind her. The chamber remained silent for a very long time. 10 years later, humanity was the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. They traded fairly with anyone who asked. They helped species in need, regardless of their history. They defended the weak and opposed the cruel. But they never again asked for a seat on the council. They did not need one. The council still existed, smaller and weaker than before. Some species had learned from their mistakes. Some had not. The galaxy continued to spin, as it always had, on Earth. In a small house surrounded by gardens, an old man named Ginho sat on his porch and watched the sunset. His hair was completely white now, his face lined with age. But his eyes were still sharp, still kind. His granddaughter ran across the lawn, chasing a ball. She was 6 years old, full of energy and laughter. She had never known a galaxy where humans begged for respect. She had only known a galaxy where humans were strong. "Grandfather," she called, running up to him. "Tell me a story." Ginho smiled and lifted her onto his knee. "What kind of story would you like?" "Tell me about the time you made the aliens stop laughing." Jinho was quiet for a moment, remembering. The chamber, the faces, the long walk out, the years of silence that followed. "I didn't make them stop laughing," he said finally. "I just stopped caring if they laughed. And then I walked away." His granddaughter frowned. "That's it? You just walked away?" "Yes, but that's not exciting." Jinho laughed, a warm sound that filled the evening air. "No, it isn't. But sometimes the quietest thing you can do is the most powerful. Sometimes walking away in silence says more than any words ever could." His granddaughter thought about this. Then she nodded seriously. "I think I understand, grandfather." "Good." He kissed her forehead. "Now go play. The sun is still up, and you have time." She ran off again, laughing, chasing the ball across the green grass. Ginho watched her go, then looked up at the sky. The stars were beginning to appear, one by one. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was still spinning. Species were rising and falling. The council was struggling to survive, but here on Earth, there was peace. The silence had been worth it. And somewhere in the cosmos, on 1,000 different worlds, the story was being told. The story of the species who had been laughed at and had simply walked away. The species who had turned their pain into strength and their anger into patience. The species who had taught the galaxy that the quietest voice in the SciFi in the room is often the most dangerous. Not because of what it might say, but because of what it might choose to never say again.